Welcome to Political Perspectives with the Washington Examiner. If you're watching us on YouTube, please remember to click like and subscribe down below. I'm Jim Antle in for Hugo Gurdon, and I'm joined today by our chief political correspondent, Byron York. Byron, you've done an interview with President Trump, and it came at an interesting time where we might be seeing a breakthrough in the Russia-Ukraine talks. What did the president have to say?
Well, I had lunch with the president at the White House on Tuesday, and this was something that had been planned weeks ahead of time, so there was no idea, what would happen on the day of the lunch. As it turned out, he had been on the phone with Vladimir Putin for a couple of hours earlier in the day, got kind of an earlier start to the day than he would actually otherwise choose because of the time difference. But he was actually pretty optimistic. He didn't think that they had solved a lot of problems at that time, but he felt that they had made a start. And I guess the concrete thing was that he said that Putin had agreed to a ceasefire on the issue against infrastructure and energy targets. Now I said, okay, so this is a ceasefire, but only applies to specific targets. He said, well, yeah. And so that's a start. Obviously, it's not the full ceasefire, which Ukraine had agreed to. And as we talked, by the way, he's just finished up talking of having a follow-up call with Zelenskyy. So presumably that was discussed. But he felt that this was a start to things and that it could move along fairly quickly.
So at different points, it seems that either Russia or Ukraine has kind of given the president a little bit of trouble in the talks. In particular, there was obviously that showdown in the Oval Office with the president and Vice President Vance and Ukrainian President Zelenskyy. Is there any sense that that dynamic is still sort of broken, or do they think that they're in a good spot right now?
Well, we talked about Zelensky and that matter in the Oval Office, and I think that he felt Zelensky had felt somewhat entitled to
Mhm.
U.S. aid, which of course Joe Biden had kind of thought also. So Donald Trump's not the only president with that impression, and he felt like Zelensky could kind of tell the U.S. what to do, and he concluded that Zelensky is on the learning curve at the moment, and he is figuring out pretty quickly that he can't do that. So, this that ugly scene in the Oval Office a few weeks ago. They kind of got over that fairly quickly. They were talking again not too long after that. I'm not saying it was all for show. I think the sentiments expressed on both sides were actually real. On the other hand, there's a really big problem, and they're not going to go off and sulk for a year and not do anything. So it's pretty active right now with the Ukrainian side.
But Trump usually mentions three reasons why he wants to do some kind of deal in Russia, Ukraine. One is the humanitarian toll of the war itself. Two is the financial cost to the United States. And three is the risk of a wider war the longer this goes on. Is that your sense of what's animating Trump right now?
Yeah, you mentioned all of those things. His worry, the third one you mentioned, he said, look, we're not involved. Our soldiers are not in Ukraine, but this could blow up. This could turn into World War III. He commonly says that. And he did emphasize the other two reasons. One, that there's so much killing going on, and the war in Ukraine really is kind of just a horrendous World War I style, standoff in which so many people are dying. And then the other is he said, look, we've spent $350 billion on this for no good purpose. We haven't gotten anything in return. Now he uses the phrase, as you know, $350 billion. He said,
Mhm.
look, I know some people say it's 190 billion, 200 billion, whatever you want to say. We've spent all this money and hadn't gotten anything in return.
So the leverage the United States has over Ukraine is pretty obvious for sort of paying the
Yeah,
freight for them to
yeah.
fight the war. Uh, what kind of pressure is he applying to Putin, or what does he think he can do to kind of motivate Putin?
Well, I asked him exactly that question, which is, we know you can put the squeeze on Ukraine because they are so beholden to the United States, but how do you put the squeeze on Putin? And he said, I don't want to talk about that right now, but let me just say, I think Putin has good reasons to want to do this, to want to end this. That's all he would say. So he would not say, I'm going to do this, this, and this. There were no specifics on how the United States would pressure Putin to do this.
We'll leave it there. Thank you, Byron.
Thank you, Jim.
And thank all of you for joining us at Political Perspectives. Please join us again next week.